Namaskar. Welcome back to RIG History Extended. We may not have the flashiest visuals or the most cinematic effects, but what we promise is depth, accuracy, and dedication. Every episode here is a result of long hours of reading, cross checking, and genuine love for history. In today's episode, Sources of Ancient Indian History, we explore how India's past was preserved through inscriptions, coins, texts, and records. These humble traces are what allow us to understand how history in India truly began to take shape. Limitations of Ancient Indian Historical Sources. Purpose of study. This presentation examines the nature, reliability, and limitations of the sources that form the foundation of ancient Indian political and historical knowledge. It explores inscriptions, literary texts, genealogies, foreign accounts, and administrative records, emphasizing how they shape our understanding of India's early past. The slides highlight the absence of definite dates in most records and the dependence on eras like Vikrama, Shaka, and Gupta for historical reference. Testimonies of travelers such as Hiuen Tsang are analyzed alongside epigraphic evidence like the Junagadh inscription of Rudradaman AD 150. The presentation traces how Indian historiography evolved from religious and poetic traditions towards factual reconstruction. Finally, it evaluates why Indian historians lacked a systematic historical sense and how philosophical and artistic ideas influenced their record keeping and writing. Despite numerous sources, India's historical records are insufficient to present a complete picture of its past, particularly for political history. The major drawback is the lack of definite dates. Inscriptions mention the date of issue but not the date of the event recorded. Records mention that Samudragupta conquered many territories, but exact time and route remain uncertain. Frontier raids or skirmishes may have been glorified into conquest by court poets. The find spots of inscriptions from Samudragupta's successors confirm that Harisena was not exaggerating. In absence of definite proof, the historian's skill and judgment remain the only guide for interpretation. Dating systems and historical sense in ancient India. The year of Alexander's invasion serves as the fixed point in ancient Indian chronology, with other dates calculated backward or forward from it. The Buddha's death is usually dated according to traditional reckonings, either Ceylon or China. Important eras like the Vikrama and Shaka eras were probably instituted by foreigners, while Indian eras like Gupta and Kalachuri Chedi were limited geographically and temporarily. The limited use of such eras show that ancient Indians lacked what is known as a historical sense. Hiuen Tsang recorded that every Indian province had officials responsible for maintaining records of events, both good and bad. Epigraphic evidence such as the Junagadh inscription of Rudradāman AD 150 supports Hiuen Tsang's testimony. Epigraphic evidence and confirmation by later records. Records that Lake Sudarsana was constructed under Chandragupta Maurya and adorned with the conduits under Ashoka, as has been stated in Junagadh inscription of Rudradaman. The governor under Chandragupta was Vaishya Pushyagupta, and under Ashoka the Yavana king Tushashpa. In the mid-5th century AD, the same lake burst its embankment and was repaired by Chakrapalita, son of Governor Pannadatta, under Gupta Emperor Skandagupta. The Ashokan and Rudradaman inscriptions together confirm the maintenance of provincial records through different dynasties. These inscriptions validate Hiuen Tsang's claim that provincial records were maintained. Despite record keeping, such records were seldom used, suggesting that ancient Indians often neglected previous data even when readily available. Records and their purpose in ancient India. Records in ancient India were maintained solely by governments for administrative purposes, not for writing history. Hiuen Tsang's statement and Chinese historical writings show that Indian records were rarely intended for historical documentation. Historical writings were almost non-existent, with most documents created for supporting administration or religious endowments. Among Indians, Kalhaṇa alone used dates in his Rajatarangini, yet his poetic inclination limited historical accuracy. Dr. D observed that Kalhaṇa's work, though valuable, leans more towards poetry than authentic history. It is likely that Kalhaṇa's attempt at chronological history was influenced by Chinese historical traditions. Even so, his Rājataraṅgiṇī, written about 2000 years after early Indian records, cannot by itself redeem India's lack of historical writing. Genealogical tradition and its historical limitations. Both ancient Indian literature and epigraphs preserved genealogies of royal dynasties, forming the strongest point of continuity in Indian historical tradition. These genealogies often trace origins to mythical ancestors, reducing their historical credibility. If these genealogies reflect a historical sense, they can be valued. If not, they are merely literary conventions. Lists of rulers, even when genuine, were often composed with exaggeration or omissions, leading to chronological confusion. Inscriptions occasionally verify genealogical lists, but such cases are rare and disconnected. Despite their importance, genealogies seldom provide precise or probable dates, complicating the reconstruction of early Indian history. Genealogical writing, though extensive, offers outlines and probabilities rather than factual and dated history. Lack of historical sense and chronology in ancient India. Dr. S.K. Day observed that from the beginning, India lacked any tradition of meticulous chronicling or critical appreciation of historical facts. The Puranas, Buddhist and Jain records were intended more for moral edification and religious teaching than for serious history. Ancient Indians showed general indifference to chronological order and accuracy in recording events. Historical writings freely mix divine and human actions, merging mythological and factual narratives. Their unwavering faith in magic, miracle, and destiny overshadowed factual precision in historical writing. Even later records, though giving some dates, failed to present clear, consistent, and adequate historiography. Whatever facts are now known had to be laboriously retrieved from fragmentary earlier sources, not from systematic historical texts. Literary works and historical themes in ancient India. Many poems, dramas, and romances dealt with historical themes but focused more on poetic and dramatic appeal. Though such works contain historical material, their accuracy and extent vary immensely and lack scholarly reliability. Despite intellectual abundance, India did not develop modern historiography, just as it failed to produce modern literary forms. The absence of historical sense led to a poor understanding of evolution of human life and thought. Writers often blended factual accounts with imagination, resulting in romanticized portrayals of history. The outlook and environment of ancient India emphasized philosophy and religion over factual analysis. The practice of Sanskrit writing remained sustained and refined, but lacked deliberate and consistent historical attempts. Philosophy and method of Indian historical writing. Indian writing viewed history not as an objective record of events but as a reflection of deeper moral and spiritual truths. History as a discipline was seen as too mundane compared to elevated ideals of Sanskrit literature. Historical writing aimed at factual accuracy but conflicted with artistic spirit of Sanskrit composition. The artistic discipline of Sanskrit literature discouraged the inclusion of prosaic factual narratives within its framework. The idea of writing history for its own sake emerged slowly in a limited form. Even when history began to appear as a genre, it could not detach itself from its legendary and poetic nature. The entire Sanskrit tradition leaned forward toward philosophical interpretation rather than empirical documentation, marking India's distinct approach to recording the past. Sources. The sources of ancient Indian history are divided into archaeological, literary, and foreign accounts, each contributing uniquely to historical reconstruction. Inscriptions engraved on stone, copper plates, and pillars form a vital record of royal achievements, edicts, and administrative measures. The Junagadh inscription of Rudradaman provides evidence of early engineering works and provincial administration under Chandragupta Maurya and Ashoka. Numismatic sources such as coins of various dynasties help determine political authority, trade connections, and economic stability. Monuments, sculptures, and poetry offer insight into cultural, artistic, and technological advancements of different periods. Literary sources including Vedas, Puranas, epics, Buddhist Tripitakas, and Jaina Agamas reflect religious, social, and moral perspectives of their time. Foreign accounts, especially those of Megasthenes, Hiuen, and Hiuen Tsang, provide external observations on India's society, polity, and economy. Together, these sources form a composite framework of India's early historical tradition, despite its lack of chronological precision. With this episode, we conclude our journey through the sources of ancient Indian history, the stones, writings, and voices that speak across centuries. We know our videos may not be most visually grand, but we try to make up for that with sincerity and most well researched content you will find on YouTube. From our next episode, we will step into political history of Harappan civilization, stretching how one of the world's first urban societies emerged on Indian soil. Thank you for watching and for learning history with heart.